couldn't become,
And
you needed a license to be a doctor or a lawyer. So instead you
right,
became a money changer.
yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Or a trader.
But there's the more general point that the Jewish community has always been highly literate and education focused, and so this there's a crazy overrepresentation in science, and in you look at Nobel prizes for pretty much anything, right? It's an order of magnitude higher than it should be, and you don't see them represented in professional sports as much as you might, right? I'm not,
Yeah.
wait for your Jewish Olympians. Um,
They've got their
you
Maccabea
know,
games. That's the only
you know,
thing they win.
I'm sure there are cultural and genetic explanations for all of these population level differences, and maybe we will try to figure them out or inadvertently figure them out. My concern is that we will, and this goes back to Charles Murray for a brief moment,
Uh-oh.
hopefully. But my concern has always been that we will forget about focusing on these issues. We'll just stumble upon them, right? We'll begin to understand the genetics of intelligence, say, and the more we understand it, the more we will be able to look at the representation of all of those genes across specific populations, and then we'll see. Once we have a genetic recipe for intelligence, we'll be able to ask the question, well, do the French have more of this than the Norwegians or vice versa? And statistically, there will be an answer, and the answer will seem politically invidious, right? If it's something
Mm.
that we care about. And it's true. It'll be true for everything. It'll be true for the genetics of violence or compassion or maternal love. I mean, all of it, right? All of it is susceptible to analysis. And again, we'll stumble in onto it by looking into these things generically. And the punchline for me politically is that we can't care about any of this. We know in advance that it would be an absolute miracle if every group, whether it's a valid group or just a pseudo group, right? I mean, literally, you could take the group of all New York Knicks fans,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I
Right?
mean,
Just take them,
a country like Australia is a completely random group anyway, because most of the
right?
population has arrived since World War II, so it's come from everywhere. And yeah, you might as well, if there was some difference in Australian IQ than everybody else, then that would be completely arbitrary.
Yeah, but you would expect to find some difference if you just ran the comparison every which way. Again, it would be an absolute miracle if, and it's important to recognize that these groups can be validly drawn or spuriously drawn. You're still going to find the same thing. And when we're talking about race, we are talking about a kind of a hybrid of what's valid and what's spurious, right? But largely in the literature, I think we're talking about just how people self-identify, right? So you can imagine the amount of noise in the system there.
Right.
And there's an interesting conversation to be had about whether what the concept of race means and should mean, and whether there are cases where it's useful or completely useless and misleading, right? But forget about all that. Just let people identify however they want. You're going to find differences for everything you care about insofar as it's measurable,
Mm.
right? And
Mm.
and so we know that's the case. And so what? The ethical goodness of our politics is completely uncoupled from an expectation of equality of that sort, right? That is not the kind of equality that we need to care about, because that kind of
Right.
equality is a total fiction. It's never existed,
Yeah, but
right?
the anti-Semite is not necessarily hung up on such questions. In fact, racists
Right.
don't have to be. It can just be there's a cabal of, of people who all look after themselves and look after each other and are trying to subvert are trying to keep everybody else down. Uh,
Yeah,
you know.
it's just not true. So to come back to the anti-Semitic issue of Kanye's view